But I just want to be clear here. You're saying that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did the 180-degree opposite. They had a rule that you specifically cannot debank somebody because of political speech.
Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland of The Majority Report had Ryan Grimm on their show this past Friday. And one of the things that they talked about was Joe Rogan having billionaire Mark Andreesen on his show, spreading misinformation and lies. This is what happens on Joe Rogan's show now. He has billionaires on there, he platforms them, and they say all kinds of nonsense. So we're going to take a look at Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Ryan Grimm talking about this. I have my thoughts on this too. Let's check it out together.
Let's talk about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I want to play this clip. And this is the first I heard of like them coming after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It was on the Vox Populi, Joe Rogan, where he invites all of his billionaire friends on to basically present conspiracy theories or just out and out lies or mechanisms in which to get popular support against things that end up protecting the populace, essentially. Here's Mark Andreesen explaining to Joe Rogan, a wrapped Joe Rogan, about debanking.
Position of deciding who gets money. It's time to unleash economic growth. Like
Elon explained that there's more agencies than there have been years of the United States.
Correct. Yeah, 450 federal agencies and 2 new ones a year.
Pause it for 1 second. I know this is not relevant, but Ryan, you've been working as a Washington bureau chief for years. Could you tell us the relevance of the historically, of the proportion of agencies to years that a government has existed? Because this is, what is that quotient called?
The Andreessen rule? Andreessen rule? Yeah.
I mean, what's this, just like topsy-turvy bar trivia? There's also more members of Congress than the amount of years that the United States has been in existence. So checkmate. I mean, I don't know what this AI is supposed to prove.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, it depends on what you consider to be and you know, there's no accounting for size. Fish and Wildlife Agency here, small business, this, like, yeah, just saying a big number like that is kind of absurd.
Exactly. Yeah. If you put all those nickels together, it would reach to the moon. That's good.
50 federal agencies and 2 new ones a year. And then my favorite twist is we have this thing called independent federal agencies. So like, for example, we have this thing called the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB, which was it's sort of Elizabeth Warren's personal agency that she gets to control. And it's an independent agency that just gets to run and do whatever it wants, right? And if you read the Constitution, like, there is no such thing as an independent agency, and yet there it is.
What does her agency do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, terrorize financial institutions, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just by terrorizing anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services. And
can you give me an example?
Well, I guess, debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from.
Yeah, let's pause it.
Just to highlight one hilarious absurdity there. His argument there is that Elizabeth Warren set up this agency to protect Wall Street from competition against other banks. Those are words that just came out of his mouth to another human being who he expected to believe that.
Do you think, I mean, everything he's saying here is almost 180 degrees backwards from the truth.
Yep.
Do you think he is consciously lying, or do you think he's just this stupid? He just knows, like, it's against my interests, so I'm just gonna say stuff. And I mean, because does he know that Joe Rogan's this stupid? Because if I'm Mark Andreesen and I'm on of the biggest podcast in the country, I might be afraid to say something so untrue, because if the person across from me goes like, hey, wait a second, Elizabeth Warren, she's built her whole career on things like antitrust and attacking banks. You're saying that she's actually protecting banks? And hey, wait a second, she's a senator. She doesn't run this agency. Hey, wait a second. Like, he doesn't seem to be afraid of this.
I think some of it is he thinks he can just get away with it. But I think some of it is he he has personally been investigated by the CFPB, and his friends have, and not just the CFPB, it's actually more the Federal Reserve and the SEC. They have gone after different scam operations that he has put his money into. And I'm sure that has been very difficult for him. And I'm sure he has been in calls with his lawyers who are describing to him what's being done. And he's absolutely enraged and feels deeply victimized by this and feels a genuine sense of injustice because these people surround themselves with sycophants.
That's the key point, and that's what I was thinking, what Ryan Grimm says, that they surround themselves with sycophants. You know that Mark Andreessen has people around him constantly just telling him what a genius he is and how great he is and everything. Anybody who's not a sycophant, he would get rid of. He's not going to have people around him that are constantly telling him that he's wrong about things because they're all trying, they're relying on him to make money too, just as he's making billions of dollars. So Ryan Grimm is right about that. One thing I want to say about Mark Andreessen, and this is petty, but anytime I see him, I always think of the coneheads. He looks like a conehead. Now, I know somebody's probably going to comment and say, oh, that's terrible that you would say that because he has the rare conehead disorder, but he just looks like a conehead to me. And the other thing, as far as these people, I mean, Sam and Emma and Ryan Grimm know this, but I don't think anybody goes on Joe Rogan's show and thinks he's going to do any fact checking. I mean, maybe if an actual progressive went on there, he would fact check them. But he just accepts whatever people say, especially if they're billionaire right wingers. If Elon went over on there, or this probably Mark Andreessen had said, Joe, gravity is a myth. Gravity doesn't exist. And Joe, we're going to go, really? Really? Gravity? We believed in gravity all this time and it's not real? Oh, yeah, it's a total hoax. It's just the woke left made it up. Oh, and Joe Rogan would be like, oh, man, that's crazy. I never knew that. And it's not like if someone went on Joe Rogan's show and said gravity is not real, that there would be any consequences for them. Mark Andreessen's nobody's going to be like, all right, Mark, we're taking all your companies away and you got to go, live on your private island somewhere. You can't be out in public anymore because what you said was obviously insane. Nothing would happen. They could say anything they want and there will be no consequences ever. So why would they expect any pushback from Joe Rogan? And why would they expect any pushback from anybody else based on anything that they say? Any true pushback, people might make fun of them online or whatever.
Who are all constantly telling them that their great ideas about building an island in the middle of the Pacific are amazing and you're such a genius. So to have some pencil pushing accountant like Rohit Chopra come in and send him a letter and say, by the way, all this stuff you're doing is illegal. Like, I'm sure there is a genuine visceral sense of injustice that then blinds him to the obvious reality that we can see. That's like, no, what you said just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's like that noise that you get where you're watching one of those movies where somebody is next to an explosion and you just hear that.
Yes.
Yeah. But can I just ask?
And nobody must correct him in his world ever.
But so he's conflating here the rules that protect people from debanking with the.
Well, I'm asking. To do that, yeah.
But I'm just asking Ryan, like he's conflating the rules that the CFPB had that protected people from getting debanked with the enforcement actions against him personally and conflating those two things. Okay.
Yeah, let's continue on because that's where he's going to next.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just terrorizing anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services. Can
you give me an example?
Debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from, is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee who...
For what?
For having the wrong politics. for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off of your to kick them out of your bank. You're not allowed
But
to
what
have
if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No,
because they're not politically exposed.
So no one on the left gets debanked?
No, I have not heard of a single instance of anybody on the left getting debanked.
Can you tell me what the person that you know did, what they said that got them debanked?
Oh, well, I mean, David Horowitz is a right-wing, he's pro-Trump. I mean, he's said all kinds of things. He's been very
All right, we don't need to hear, I think, any more of the story. So, okay.
Let's do the PEP real quick for people who are curious about that. So a politically exposed person, you can just Google this and find it out. That means if you are a mayor, a member of Congress, a banking regulator, like let's say you're Rohit Chopra, for instance, at the CFPB, and you are susceptible to bribery, like not susceptible, but like you're the kind of person that might be bribed, then there's a higher level of scrutiny that a bank has to do to make sure that these people aren't doing money laundering or like washing bribes through their bank accounts. That's what a PEP is. It has zero to do with anybody's politics at all. Like
is it called a political? What did he call it? A
PEP, politically exposed person. It's an actual.
Okay,
concept.
So politically exposed in the sense that you could be, like, I guess, subject to bribery or something like that, and you have a vested stake in. It makes you just more, I guess, vulnerable.
You're a higher
to
risk.
financial exploitation.
Same as if you live in Sinaloa and are conducting all of your transactions in crypto. As a bank, you have to have heightened scrutiny of that customer because we have know your customer laws, and that's where he gets caught. His companies like to work with those people. They create workarounds for those people, and they don't like that the CFPB or the SEC or the Fed are coming in and being like, so you're moving a couple $1 million of crypto from Mexico over to Lebanon and then into this New York account. Like, who is this? They're like, how dare you ask who this is? These are freedom-loving Mexicans or whatever they are. And then they'll shut their account down and they'll be like, I got debanked for saying something about Trump.
But because
they're also Trump supporters. So they're like, that's why it was. It's like, no, that account got taken down because it was moving crypto for the cartels.
Now, there is such a thing as debanking, though, insofar as you can lose your account if, I mean,
what's happened, like Laura Loomer, it happened to her. Like the Canadian truckers, I don't know how good an example they are because they're in Canada, but like people
Cowboys, I think.
Yeah, people have lost bank accounts because of their political activity. And the CFPB came in and said, you can't do that to Laura Loomer. Like, Laura Loomer has a right to Uber Eats and PayPal and anything else.
Because it affects Venmo and PayPal too, right? Like it affects other payments that are not even just your Chase or your Bank of America or whatever, right?
So as Ryan Grimm is outlining here, the CFPB actually does the opposite of what Mark Andreesen is saying. But this is what's so insidious about Joe Rogan and what he does on his show and so many of these right-wing shows. They throw out these right-wing talking points that are not true. There's no fact-checking. There's no, Joe Rogan saying, you know what, Mark Andreesen, I don't know that that's right. We're going to look into this and, see what CFPB actually does. They don't actually do that. So then you have the people who watch Joe Rogan's show or listen to Joe Rogan's show, then spouting all of this stuff online, and then you have people thinking like, oh, the CFPB, it's bad, when it's actually a good organization, a good department, office, however they describe it, that has saved money for regular Americans in terms of ridiculous fees. And the Mark Andreessens of the world don't like that because they want to be able to rip all of us off as much as they possibly can. And we had this one tiny example of an actual department that had the goal of trying to keep people from not being ripped off as much. Imagine that, But here we are. So let me know what you think about, in this section, we didn't hear a lot from Emma Vigeland, but if you want to go to the Majority Report YouTube channel and hear everything that Sam Seder and Ryan Grimm and Emma Vigeland had to say, we only got into about half of it. The entire thing is about 20 minutes long. It's really informative. But let me know what you think in the comments about all this, and make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.